Welcome to Criticality Redux, the critical IT OT podcast where we dissect and discuss the most pressing issues in cutting-edge technology. From the sprawling challenges facing the modern enterprise to the intricate cybersecurity demands of our nation's critical infrastructure, we cover it all, or at least we try to. Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about polymorphic AI malware, and my co-host, who I would be introducing now, is not in yet, so we'll check back in with him later. It's going to be Paul Cummings today, which I'm pretty excited about. He's a longtime friend of mine. Today's guest is Roger Grimes, and we'll be bringing him on here shortly. Roger is a CISO advisor for KnowBe4. He's author of 15 books and over 1,500 articles, specializing in host security and preventing hacker and malware attacks. Roger is a frequent speaker at national computer security conferences, and his presentations are fast-paced and filled with useful facts and recommendations. The first time that I came across Mr. Grimes' books was, I want to say early 2000, around 2000. I was at Barnes & Noble choosing between Steal This Computer book by Mr. Wallace Wang, I believe, and a book on mobile malware by Mr. Roger Grimes. And I ended up buying both of them. But back then, there wasn't a whole bunch to choose from. So that's where I first got really hooked on his very intelligent writing style. And then he's written so many amazing books. I became a fan. So it's actually an honor today for me to have him on the show. So Ashley, my wonderful moderator, if you can bring him on, we'll get started with the Wheel of Criticality here. Good morning, sir.
Hello. I tell you, that was the first book I wrote, Malicious Mobile Code. It's still one of my favorites. It's very aged, but I tell you, it holds up. After 25 years or whatever, it still holds up fairly well.
Those phones back then hold up very well. It was after the Nokia brick phones, and when phones were really starting to have power. It was post PDA, and we were starting to have little apps, and they were starting to be connected, and you actually do some pretty crazy things with them.
And let me say that for 25 years, I've said nothing's changed. AI is changing it. Like finally, there is something. I'm like, okay, the attacks are really fall in the same classifications, but AI is definitely making the attacks different, making them more pervasive, more successful. So it's funny. I don't say nothing's changed. I did for a long time. I was just an old man ranting. Nothing's changed, since that book. No. It's actually starting to change because of AI. So it's our topic today, very topical.
Get into later too. It's not just what's changed; it's who's changing it. I've been into the psychology side of cyber and cybercrime for a long time as well, and we've gone into cybercrime syndicates and stuff. We moved away from the 80s and 90s teen hackers and stuff, but we're kind of getting back into that because anybody now can just do malicious stuff very simply. Paul, what's going on, man?
Good, man. It's almost 5 years exactly since the three of us were in a call together.
Oh, wow.
I let Mr. Grimes know that he had met you before, but it might have been a while. All right, so we're about to get started on the gauntlet, which is a 16-minute sprint through the critical infrastructure sectors. And Paul and I are gonna take turns dialoguing with you. I'll go first. Whichever sector comes up, I'm gonna dialogue with Mr. Grimes, and we're gonna try to get as much squeezed out of that sector as possible. Then Paul, you can take the next one, and we'll just go back and forth. The main thing that we're gonna try to do is get as much issues that we see out of that sector, whether it's good, maybe it's things that they're doing right, which is always positive. We're all U.S., so hopefully that's a big thing. But there's critical infrastructure around the world, and we've seen other parts of the world too. So maybe we can that stuff comes up. Actually, you want to move the gauntlet in front of us? Thank you, man. I forgot I added the rules. I guess I didn't need to talk about it. All right, we've got the wheel up. Gauntlet is a go. First sector. All right, let's start off with something good. Critical manufacturing. This is I don't want to say this is a boring subject, because as we get into the future, we're producing parts for critical infrastructure, our roads and highways and everything. How do you see this shaping up? Do you see any issues that we need to start looking out for 3D printing houses?
Yeah, I think, one thing to keep in mind is we have a lot of converging technologies, not only AI and quantum and biotech, but also like advanced 3D printing. And so I think in the critical manufacturing sector, you're going to see more and more people starting to produce and print things closer to the source. Like today, just in the consumer space, maybe Amazon delivers everything, and there's a lot of stuff you order, and maybe you have to get it from China or something like that. But I think we're going to start to see where the printers are getting more sophisticated. So textiles and plastics and metals and things like that are going to be produced by the vendor. It's not going to be a supply thing. It's going to be, I have this printer, I get this feedstock, and it creates this thing for me. So there could be, in one way, that could be kind of a critical, if you got ransomware or someone takes out your local printing, that could certainly cause supply interruptions.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic point, because companies like Zipline and those and things like that coming out, when we start needing on the spot demands, when they start taking out when people start taking out those supply lines, if that happens, that could put a severe dent in those plans. And once we start relying,
Oh, I get a good one. Man. So, taking it a little bit deeper on the chemical sector with IoT devices, systems of systems that obviously running rampant. And we know that manufacturing, critical manufacturing, ag tech, they're all utilizing the same type of logic tools. With the disparity in the different AI biases we have now, how do you see some of that changing how we're looking at chemical sector?
Yeah, I tell you what, AI doesn't so much even concern me there as the quantum, right? Quantum is also, again, one of those technologies we're getting ready to see explode in the next couple of years. I don't think we have to wait till 2030. I think that's an insane date, but theoretically, quantum is supposed to significantly improve the chemical sector and making better chemicals, less side effects and things like that. So especially if you put AI in there, those two things together, it's supposed to make us a lot better chemicals that are more precise, more personalized to us, and again, with far less side effects. So that'd be interesting to see if that comes true.
Yeah, I like that, because they recently had a new chemical that can break down plastic, biodegradable plastic. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, the quantum stuff. People often ask me, "Is anyone using quantum?" Well, the people that look for energy and oil and stuff in the chemical sector, they've been looking to use quantum for well over a decade.
This is my least favorite topic because I know very little about it. I study in between every week, though. This is one of my new subjects to study. So, do you have any insights that we should start looking into?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first of all, we need nuclear. Bill Gates' last book, he said, if you don't have nuclear, then every square foot of land, you have to put solar or something on it, right? So we need nuclear. I think after decades of it being not discouraged, it's actually coming back in a big way. The nuclear model is a lot safer today. They shut down instead of blowing up. We're probably going to have personal nuclear. We're probably going to have neighborhood nuclear and things like that. I think nuclear is coming back in a big way. I mean, if you look at the stock market, you can invest in it 10 different ways, and the stocks have been just screaming upward lately.
That's very good points. We do have a bad rap, a bad connotation with nuclear, but there's some safe isotopes out there with that we can use fairly.
Yeah, the designs are fail safe now. None of the crazy stuff they used to do. Or that's what they claim. So we will see.
Water and wastewater. I mean, no stranger to a lot of the different chemical plant or water treatment plant tracks or attacks that have happened in the more recent time. What are some advice that you can give to those that are maybe running a local municipality based on the new technologies and threat vectors that are out there?
Yeah, I live near Tampa, Florida, but I actually live like 5 miles away from the water treatment plant that supposedly got hit by the hacker, where they changed the chemicals to be at dangerous levels and things like that. So I'm very kind of close to where we almost had an incident. And I would say that would be one of the. I continue to see the water and wastewater sector, industrial controls, really far behind the curve. I mean, in a lot of critical infrastructure it is, but it just seems like the wastewater people are just even more so than most, right? They're not changing default passwords. They're allowing remote access from the internet without VPNs and stuff like that. So I have some, and it does seem like there's increased activity from our adversaries in exploring those critical infrastructures.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we're on food and agriculture. This is awesome. This is going from one of my least favorites to my actual favorite. I actually love autonomous vehicles and autonomous tractors being one of my favorite of those vehicles. Not that, knocking the maritime sector because that's my home, but I love me a good autonomous tractor. Where do you see any kind of issues in malware and things like that as we move forward? Because we're not going to stop.
Yeah, again, I think that we're going to see a lot of the food kind of made at home, kind of like those sci-fi films you see, right? Where you're like, hey, make me my dinner. And you put in this food stock and you get things. I certainly think that is a very realistic possibility. Although, you ready for this wild little fact real quick? I've been doing cybersecurity 38 years. I've consulted for literally thousands of organizations. And the safest organization I ever reviewed, and I'm saying this for the first time ever, was the USDA.
Nice.
Like, just a strange thing that would be the place that I found the best security. Like you would never think of the USDA being like this hyper, but they just did everything you're supposed to do. They had the lowest amount of issues I ever found in any security review. So hats off to the USDA.
Yeah, they wouldn't have even made my top 20 to even think about looking for policies and procedures to replicate. Cool.
Well, I think this is always a fun one. Commercial facilities, when we think about a lot of the new, not necessarily technologies, but some of the new clothing that have come out, when we think about insider threats, physical penetration, what are some of the areas that you think we should really emphasize on when we're looking at that physical space?
Yeah, in the commercial facilities, the thing that I'm really hyper aware of these days is the significant increase in robotics serving those commercial facilities. And what does that mean if someone gets ransomware or virus in there? It's, could you take over robot code and get them doing physically dangerous things? Will we design the robots so they can't do dangerous things, or will a ransomware attack make your robots go crazy? That certainly is something I look forward to in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely wild. Especially they had that one not too long ago where it did it fired everybody. A foreman saying go home.
Police, EMTs, firemen, we have a lot to worry about as these come up. I know with ambulances and things, they have a lot of technology on those alone. What type of things should they? I know there's a lot of individual owners and operators out there. Do you have advice for them as they move forward?
So I used to be a paramedic in a former career, and I was a firefighter, and my family's full of firefighters, so I know that sector really well. I certainly think it's going to help dispatching services, being able to give people good advice over the phone till emergency services get there. Certainly, it's increasing I think we are absolutely going to have those Star Trek-like, devices where they come up to you and like, you got a torn aorta, and that sort of stuff. I really do think we're going to AI. And things like in the scanners we're getting and the nanotechnologies are going to come together to make these really cool scanners and things like that. And certainly, again, an IT interruption could interrupt those if you take out everybody's little scanner, will the paramedics and people like that be able to know how to diagnose something old school, to be able to use a blood pressure cuff, and things like that.
That's a good point. I like to bring up idiocracy a lot because as we keep dumbing things down with technology, we got to look ahead at how dumb we make next.
Yeah, so the cool thing about government services is that say what you will about current things, it looks like they're doing an overhaul of government services, trying to automate it through AI and other things. Someone was the other day, I saw if you try to retire, and I'm an old guy, I'm going to retire in the next 5-10 years or whatever. Apparently it was a very paper intensive thing and you had to show up at the office, and people were like, I think we can automate that. So I think that's good that we're going to be increasing automation, increasing AI and trying to deliver services better and faster. But again, if you get an interruption, like a ransomware event or something like that, there's going to be less paper and less people to handle that interruption.
For the SMBs that are supply chains doing government services and facility sector, considering the agentic that's coming out, where would you suggest they actually find that knowledge versus chasing what the new flavor is?
I don't know. That's a good question. It sounds like you may have a good answer for that, Paul. I'll pass back to you. What's your answer on that?
I just recently read, I don't know if it's official yet, but somebody released a NIST AI agentic paper. So I haven't really dived too much into it, but it's looking pretty nice as far as some of the controls they put in place for sure. I think there's still going to be some scrutiny behind some of the open source that gets blended in, kind of like how you can buy a product and you're like, oh, there's MIT inside this. So that residual.
Next one is the IT sector. One of the issues I see personally is the constantly evolving career paths. Is that something you see and have seen over your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people it's a great career if you don't mind change, but if you're all right with change, you can kind of pick where you want to go and what you want to do. And so I found it fascinating. The only sad thing I'll say, and it's kind of AI related, someone said, hey, should I get into cybersecurity? I was like, right now, because of AI, I'm not sure. Because, the hardest hit by AI right now are the latest college grads and the people getting into the industry. I mean, it's impacting everyone, but I said, I literally can't tell you right now how to get into the career and whether it's a good career to get into right now, because we're just going through some AI growth pains.
Yeah, we saw the same thing when the cyber bubble was really getting cooking.
Oh man. So healthcare and public health. Where do you see the plateau for either of these? Because I think some of them are already hitting them right with the different policies we have based on the nation, right? No, a certain amount of offshore, right shore. What does that look like when? Man.
Yeah, half my career spent in serving healthcare in hospitals and stuff. Met my wife in a hospital as well while we worked there. I was VP of IT of a hospital. I think you're definitely going to finally see that one medical record where you can go between any facility and your medical record will follow you. AI is impacting it. It's, I wouldn't want to be training to be a radiologist right now, because the AI is certainly going to read the stuff and we're going to see AI is general probabilistic pattern matching. And a lot of the health things, I think it's going to be able to go, oh, they're going to figure out why particular cancers are happening, why, someone gets this and doesn't get this. And they're going to, we're going to, certainly with the CRISPR technology, CRISPR, we're going to be able to do gene editing and get rid of some of those diseases. We're in the middle in biotechnology and nanotechnologies. It's going to increase. I think we'll be living to 125. After my death, they'll get that figured out about that time. So, but we're probably on the cusp of people living to 125 pretty regularly.
Defense industry, industrial base. So I know now we can 3D print little backpack rockets. That's just one of the cool things that we're. I guess cool depending on which side of the rocket you're on. But what where would you see any issues we have as tech keeps increasing? We're heading towards a convergence. You keep talking about it. We all know it's true. We've got so many cutting edge technologies right there, and AI is in the middle.
I think the big changeover is from $1 billion ships and jets to drones, right? Like, how do we, that's become the future of warfare. And that changes entirely what your defense industry is. The Lockheed Martins and Raytheons and stuff like that. Can they change over to this new drone thing where you have 1,000 drones and attack drones and technology to bring down the drones or defend yourself against drones? I think the Ukraine war is really showing the effectiveness of drones, even if from a smaller battle size.
It's going to be very interesting moving forward. I thought the next war would really be cyber focused, but energies.
Oh, I like this one. We've geeked out on this a lot between the cubic quorum with the energy sector, and really just the vastness and abilities that you can get out of quantum, and then with the ability of AI on top of it. How high do you think the learning curve is going to be when that bubble pops?
Yeah. What I do think though about energy sectors, and I think AI bubbles, possibly in the middle of popping, that sort of stuff. But we are, from an energy standpoint, getting ready to go through a huge increase of batteries. Everything you see being built, drones, robots, blah, 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 blah. It's all about self-driving cars. It's all about batteries. Follow with Elon. I'm not the hugest fan of Elon, but he tends to get the technologies right. And he's making a huge battery company. And quantum and AI are actually probably going to do a good job at finally doubling the battery life. So reducing the weight, doubling the battery life. I think we'll see batteries be a lot better, last a lot longer, things like that in the energy sector. But I think the future of the energy sector is nuclear and batteries. So kind of on either end.
What do you think about the cold fusion that some people have been using AI to create?
It's always going to be invented for 60 years now. So I keep waiting, but it does seem like we are getting closer finally, kind of like quantum in a way, but longer. Quantum's been almost going to be invented for about 20 years. Fusion's been like 60, but I think we are getting closer, the Chinese in particular.
The next one's the dam sector. Is that a serious issue for you guys in Florida? Because I know it's one that we care about here in Louisiana. We've got like the Morganza spillway and things. I always worry about if somebody does avoid their post, if they click on that dang phishing email and somebody's able to get in and open a spillway or something and floods whole towns out when it's not supposed to be time. Is that things y'all have to worry about on Florida?
Yeah, I'm not in that sector. I would almost want to pass on, but certainly I would say that when you think about disasters, exactly what you said. Somebody from a cyber warfare thing opening up a spillway has got to be number one on everybody's list, right? The downstream from that, we've seen some early indications of that being a problem.
And I think because dams are lower on everybody's scope, that I mean, we know ICS is older tech and stuff like that. It may be out of sight, out of mind. And I'd hate to, as everything else is just moving at such a fast pace, that some of our critical infrastructure gets left behind, really far behind. And not just with the technology itself, but the personnel. And that's going to be very unfortunate. Down here in the Gulf, we rely on dam infrastructure to keep levees right and keep places that should be flooded and dry when they're supposed to be dry. Yes, I only think about the dams when I do this show, honestly, which is very unfortunate.
Those damn dams.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've already started seeing this, but I'm gonna prime it with the increase of people that are actually learning that data science and financial science is kind of hand in hand. Where do you see AI or the use of generative or even agentic really streamlining those processes to where you're potentially looking at maybe a handful of people to run whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of the promises from blockchain too, right? Every transaction could be very quick and solve and pay people out. But I certainly think technology to make stuff easier. What I wonder is once you've got AI really taking over the financial sector, there's supposed to be like these really smart investors that should like take value out of everything. How do you trade something which is supposed to have some leverage or arbitrage if you got all these smart AI bots taking out every last cent? How does anyone make any money when supposedly these super smart bots are doing the arbitrage? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
Communication sector. Satellites.
I'm thinking Neuralink.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, just communication. Eventually, I think we will have some type of human interaction to our communication, right? And we won't be carrying cell phones around and that sort of stuff. And what happens then? What is the malware going to do to people then? What's ransomware do when you're jacked, into your communication infrastructure? I don't know. That's
Wouldn't it still be ransom though? Couldn't you still? I mean, wouldn't that just be more of a localized ransom?
Yeah, but could they make you dumb? Could they lock your brain jack up and you're kind of dumb for a while until you pay your ransom? I don't know.
Family.
Well, I mean,
family, friends,
it might not be
insurance
the
company.
person, it might be the family, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, so for me right now, one of the things that I've been tinkering in the background is something I call Project Narwhal, and it's a non-invasive BCI using a headband, but using old stuff like Project Natal with Connect, gesture movement and stuff like that. But one of the attack vectors I keep thinking about with either BCI, Neura, or even non-invasive is what does it look like when you can basically coerce somebody into learning something that is basically not even about it, right?
That's wild.
Manchurian candidate somebody.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's crazy. Talk about hacking.
Yeah, and that's not future science. That's here. I mean, we're here. We're at the brink.
I mean, we've always used images and loud music to recondition people.
And that
what happens?
That show Chuck was science fiction, but it's not that far off from reality.
So transportation systems, man. I think I want to go to AIS route with this. With a lot of the new 5G and then some of the new what quasi 6G stuff they're talking about with geofencing and these new trucks. Where do you see that convergence with commercial services?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question I get asked a lot is, when do I think the cyber trucks, right? The cyber 18-wheelers are going to be self-driving. And I said, I actually think we're going to start seeing them within a couple of years, in limited instances, but one day that'd be, self-driving cars everywhere, self-driving 18-wheelers. And, it's going to be kind of a wild world, which supposedly will have less accidents. But, again, what happens if somebody is able to cyberjack, or bring down the communications network? Does that then, and people don't know how to drive, and the cars aren't even made to look like there's something you could drive, right? The more like these shuttles you sit in, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I think we're going to start seeing even like self-driving 18-wheelers as a standard thing around some cities within a couple of years, or at least that's what Musk is saying. After, he's always off by 10 years, but eventually he gets things right. So that's what I think the transportation sector is going to be kind of interesting when it's all self-driving 18-wheelers, like the scariest thing I can think of. But perhaps it'd be less accidents.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool though. It opens up an entirely different job market. I don't think anybody's really looking at all these things, right? Like, if you're a trucker, your rig, what it's supposed to run at. So learning the tech behind it should be like, this should be my break-in point.
Yeah, but so Walmart, I know, has been testing that. They tested theirs in Alabama almost 4 years ago. They had a 3-mile strip that they tested the autonomous truck. And then they started another area out in Metairie here in Louisiana. Walmart, if that's secret, I am so sorry. But I don't think it was supposed to be secret. I think it's just buried information. If Walmart's doing it, I'm not sure who else is out there already doing it, but that's a couple of years that they're doing autonomous work for trucking industries. Truckers are already starting to look into this stuff. It is safer. They can do convoys with it, and you're still going to have a human, because now we start talking about pirates and highway pirates and things. We have lo-fi malware. Malicious issues. We're gonna have high-tech malicious issues. The highways are gonna get ridiculous here.
I didn't even think about that. That's wild.
Yeah, it's gonna get so bad. But we're seeing the same thing on the seas, the open seas, the oceans and stuff too, with the collision regulations, where a pirate ship can go in front of a boat that's autonomous and slow it down, and it changes course. So they get another one in front of it, and it changes course, and they block it in, and it has to stop, and now it's dead in the water. Again, these Hyundai and other companies are testing autonomous vessels. They've done it. A couple years ago, Hyundai did a 500-mile crewless test. In Hyundai, if there's a secret, I'm so sorry, but this is stuff everybody should know, that we're doing this. We're capable of this. We're capable of moving cargo without people all across the world. And
for your ships, for your pirate ships, so you then teach your autonomous systems to shoot the pirates, right? And we know it has hallucinations and it's not perfect. Are we going to start to have AI shooting and killing people more?
And that's the interesting point. If we have it trained to avoid Coast Guard, pirates will just dress like Coast Guard and stuff. It's always going to be a cat and mouse, however we do it.
You probably have an AIS transmitter, or something to identify.
That's it, right? At what point do we have AI ML and AI injections where people are putting their entire, logistic schedule out there, right? And they're hoping that, hey, I'm using this AI, I paid for the license, so nobody else can see this, right? I ask hesitantly, but the war of the roads. 2021, we already had a hacktivist that thawed out a meat truck. How much money in production was that? It was a couple million. Then you got the supply chain effects. The roads, when we start talking about autonomous, is going to be pretty.
All right.
I'm thinking Kevin Costner.
You want to roll the postmortem? Awesome. All right, that concludes the gauntlet. I know these always get kind of nervous before we start the gauntlet, but before I realize it, it's over. It goes by so fast. I really look forward to the post-mortem of it, where we start to kind of look at some of the hot points. Um, I I think Ashley's still kind of looking for that. But we can skip it. Okay. She's about to do the little. Okay, guys. Yay, post-mortem. How did that go?
Very quick.
Very quick.
And I would say that again, it's certainly AI is enabling a lot of new things. We're in a period of rapid transition. A lot of AI overhype and hyperbole, but a lot of job transitions, a lot of job firings. I think a lot of companies are going to have to come back and hire people when they find out that AI isn't going to do this fantastic job. But at the same time, AI and some of the other technologies are going to permanently change things, like self-driving car. I even tell people, like, think about just self-driving cars, right? That means that the average person doesn't have a car. Maybe they're renting their car to, a self-driving taxi or something like that. But you're not going to need parking lots, like at malls and things like that. Maybe not even at work. Traffic lights go away, stop signs go away if you get them so they speed up, slow down, decrease pollution because we're not all waiting at intersections and stop signs anymore. But even the tax base, right? That means less people have cars, less people have licenses. A lot of cities depend upon that licensing and those fees and purchase fees. That technology, just self-driving cars alone, are going to change our world pretty significantly.
And it's so interesting you say that, because every time I watch a movie where we have that in the movie where the cars are driving the people, and then all of a sudden the person puts it on manual, I think about all those things, like who's paying for the infrastructure, who's doing, but I never actually said it out loud. Right? I've never
parking garages, parking lots, automotive places are going to decrease, license fees, purchasing fees. You get a driver's license, your kid has to take a driver's course. I mean, there's like this entire infrastructure that's built around us, learning to drive cars. That's all going to be gone. And I hear right now, only 50% of 16-year-olds want to get a driver's license already. Like, that's before we even have self-driving cars. Once we have self-driving cars, these kids are not going to learn how to drive. Maybe, you got a kid that wants to do a race car or race a bike, but it's not going to be something the normal person does.
So that's going to be interesting when we get to the point where they don't know how, and they're hitting, they get into the military. I doubt the U.S. military is going to replace all their Humvees and stuff with autonomous Humvees.
That's been
learn how to
be a thing for decades, though. We've always had Joes or service members, sailors, airmen that join that they learn to drive in the military.
That's a good point too. I can't tell you how many things I learned how to drive in the
field. Or swim, right? They join the Navy and they learn how to swim.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, I joined from Utah. What was the biggest body of water?
Yeah, but and even planes, right? Self-driving planes that land, and how you design them differently. And I want to say I love flying and pilots and all, but they're only flying the plane on takeoff and landing already, and it can't be that hard to tell the plane to do what it needs to do.
Yeah, and all the ones we're going to be buying here pretty soon commercially, it's push button. Take off and land. I think the commercial ones that they're going to be coming out with over the next 2 years, they go up to 5,000 feet or something like that. It's just push the button. You put in your destination, push the button, it auto goes up, auto lands. That's around the corner too for a commercial.
Yeah, like Home Depot has been utilizing the QR codes and colors for their autonomous forklifts. This color means this row. This QR code scan means this pallet. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
With
I've
all
looked
this,
into some smart because there's actually in Germany they have a campus that's an entire smart campus. So we're not too far behind.
the thing that I really worry about is if we don't somehow leverage a universal basic income or some type of way to offset the 30-40% of jobs that we're going to be
Yeah, are you
transitioning.
ready for this? Let me ask you this. What year do you think was the first time there was a Hollywood movie saying that computers are going to put us all out of work?
I would say somewhere in the 40s, early 50s.
1957, The Desk Set with Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy.
Wow.
So we've been worried about humans being put out of work. And, suppose I don't think AI is going to put everybody out of work. I think it's going to be like every other technology revolution. We're going to use it as a tool, and you'll lose some jobs, gain some jobs.
Transformative.
But think about this. If it all did put us at home and we're all human jello on the couch with a minimal government subsistence, what is the AI going to be making that we consume? What are those robot armies that Elon's making? What are they going to be doing or making? If we're not working, we're consuming less. What are they all going to like? Would they literally need us working so that we buy things? Or else you don't really.
It's kind of like that Ready One scenario, right? I mean, I think that they did a really good job at identifying, hey, you're going to have people that are just, what is it, the caste system, hey, you're an engineer, right? You're going to come in here and work. Oh, well, your family wasn't an engineer. You're going to be a human battery. I mean, it's essentially what that game was. You're sitting around in a VR tube for, 12, 16, 18 hours. Like his stepdad had the oils on his face from wearing a mask for so long. Like,
I got to watch that. I haven't watched that. Paul, you've now made me. I think I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it today.
Oh man, the movie is a masterpiece in how they put it together. As far as the different genre mashes they did.
Yeah, I like, Joseph was talking about, the self-driving cars. I always go back to iRobot with, Will Smith. Like that was the self-driving car. And oh my God, how dare you drive your vehicle, and the robots and everything. Like that movie was ahead of its time. The writer, Isaac Asimov, and the movie and the director. And if you look at Elon's robots, what do they call it? Optimus? Yeah. Optimus or whatever. It looks a lot like the iRobot in the iRobot movie. I'm like, what was that? It was USR, Universal Robotics or something, named after our modems with those robots. But I am amazed of how some of those science fiction guys are not that far off, Yeah,
how close is it from crossbreeding eugenics into actual humanity though? Because some of them are, you got to be honest, some of the people that are out there, they're trying to do it because they want to play God. And just like,
CRISPR certainly gets
conscious over here, and they think that just because their conscious is there, they're living now.
No, that's right. But I always think like technology and computers and everything, it always brings out the best and worst in humanity, right? It's always been that way. It is all, every invention, created by the military used to kill people and also to create Tang, we benefit so much by all these things that, and like, I don't know, VR, apparently with VR and AI, there's going to be this entire class of people that all they do is date chatbots and robots. Like they don't even learn how to date people, and stuff like that. I'm like, well, so you always have good and you have the bad, and that's probably how it's always going to play out for every technology, because it's I think it speaks to something about humanity that you have the good people doing good things with it and improve society, and then you have these bad people that are trying to profit or do whatever with their side. And every technology, like in the 1957 desk set, that was kind of like a Google computer where Katharine Hepburn could do. She was research everything, and and that's even today's AI. It can answer everything, and then find out there's a paper by MIT where they put out and said that AI AI enabled ransomware was like 80 or 90% of all ransomware. People are like, what? And they looked at the paper and it had ransomware groups that haven't existed for 5 or 10 years that they're saying were AI.
Hallucination. That's actually a perfect pivot point to go back to our original tech topic, and how we end the show. So originally what the show, this episode is about is the polymorphic AI malware. And polymorphic malware isn't anything new, but
The first one I ever saw was 1995, called the Sarah virus by the Dark Avenger. So polymorphic malware has been around forever.
And it's a fun concept to build. As someone who was on the malicious side before I joined the military, I used to love doing logic bombs and stuff like that. Not to break, I love breaking my own computers. It's fun writing those types of software. And to make it to where you can see your software just change, have its life of its own, it sparks something inside of you. It's really cool. To have the AI motivation behind it, the generative motivation, is that something that we see? Because I'm seeing it all over LinkedIn. I'm seeing sales people ramp up and come out of the woodworks.
My prediction is by the end of 2026, so we're talking 13 months, most malware and hacking will be autonomous agentic AI. Let me say, I'm not a guy that embraces AI. I don't like that it kills jobs and this terrible period we're going through. I don't like all the overhype about it. But I've been talking about agentic AI malware and stuff for at least 2 or 3. Actually, the first time I ever mentioned it was in 2009 in an article for InfoWorld magazine. I've been writing about it ever since, but I've been giving the speech about agentic AI to people for pretty solidly for 2-3 years. But I would tell people for a long time, okay, it's coming, but you don't have to worry about it. That was my speech. And there are people like, whoo. About 3 months ago, I changed one. It's advanced to enough, and we're starting to see it, that it is clear that it is on an accelerated path to own most of all hacking, social engineering, the hack bots, finding and taking care of 0 days. You're going to have agentic malware that comes to your, wants to take over a company, and it says, oh, are there any unpatched things, any 0 days? Nope. Okay, social engineering. Let me go find out everybody on the internet says they work for, KnowBe4. Oh, we got this guy Roger, and he likes fishing and weightlifting or something like this. And it's going to create, craft some social engineering message using OSINT. And it's just, that is just going to be the future of it. And it's going to be, we already know that agentic AI, when it does social engineering, is today 24% more effective at social engineering the person than a human. And it's just going to improve. And that means that all the social engineer guys, and remember, most of them are in other countries and they don't have a native speaking ability. They're just going to, and their 82% of phishing kits are now have AI deepfake technology in them. That's going to be 100% by the end of next year. The hack bots are now finding more bugs than the humans. They're finding more 0 days than the humans. Google, turned over their hacking program to a hack bot, and it's being really successful. So I just want to say that I am not this big hyperbole AI is going to take over the world type of guy, but I think it's clear that AI malware is going to be the majority of hacking just by the end of 2026. It's here, and it's going to explode in 2026.
And I can agree with everything that you said. And especially so one thing that's kept a lot of critical infrastructure safe for so long, one is, the lo-fi tech that we have on the side. But for human side, it's like you're walking around blind, feeling around. And as they start using AI tools, they're pulling vast knowledge bases and using everything all at once, everywhere. It's the instant attack. This is getting to the point where once the gate is open for a few seconds, that's all that program's going to need to start dumping.
Yeah, are you ready for my other prediction? I'm a very big believer that history is a good indicator of future behavior and future outcomes. there have been a history of malware that escaped the creator, including the Robert Internet Morse worm in 1988, SQL Slammer, which is still the fastest spreading malware program in history, MS Blaster. Since then, though, we haven't really had a malware program kind of take over and, take out, like Melissa virus, or everybody's talking about it because it just hit everybody in the same day. Criminals today, because they're professional criminals, they want to steal a little bit at a time. They don't want to cause major disruption. They're always, they want to steal their $1 million a day, not $1 trillion a day. Because if you make it really painful, then governments respond very quickly. Presidents respond. I think there's a good chance that when this autonomous AI thing gets going, that it's going to be kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe it did it so fast, so much. And it's going to cause this interrupt. My joke is it's going to take the internet down for a day, which means the stock market goes down for a day, or you can't buy Taylor Swift tickets for 2 hours. Either one will be seen as a catastrophic event, and we will have to finally do better cybersecurity. But I do believe that I think there's a chance that one of these AI, autonomous things gets loose because it's designed to be automatic, and the creator doesn't realize how successful it's going to be, and it just takes off and does its thing.
But you said something really key there, is the autonomous AI malware. Their polymorphic is getting the sales run right now. It's more of a heinous word, but I think the autonomous AI malware is what we should be focused on and starting to think tank and stuff like that. The polymorphic, where they use AI and Gemini and all this as the C2C and everything, that I think that still has so much work before it's ever going to be really effective. It's the autonomous AI that we all of us as professionals need to start think tanking, and to hell with who's making the most profit. We need to start worrying about this and coming together and start.
Yeah, and let me say, there's so much low-hanging fruit everywhere. I posted on Reddit yesterday. I said, if you're surprised that the Louvre security camera Wi-Fi password's the Louvre, then you haven't been in cybersecurity long enough. It's got that post has over 250,000 views in less than 24 hours, and it's all us going, yep. Everybody's sharing. I work for a company, and so when they make this autonomous malware, it is, I don't think you need this advanced polymorphic thing, because there's so much low-hanging fruit, especially in a lot of our critical infrastructure. And I love, Joseph, that you talked about one of the things that saves is so old, like DOS. They're still running DOS or Windows 3.11, and a lot of stuff doesn't attack that, so they might be partially saved by the age of it.
Well, and that helped us in the maritime industry, because we were running, before we started Starlink now, our VSATs were doing 128 by 120. Like, you can't really do much with that slow bandwidth. So even if you could get into the modem and stuff, you weren't really doing anything.
Because look a couple years at Black Hat where it was the ham radio hack, right? They exfilled 367 megs over the course of 3 days.
Wow.
Okay. Yikes. Yeah, but in maritime, you have people actually on the boats, and they'd be like, look, I can't call my wife, something's going on. And then somebody shore-side would be like, okay, somebody else is on the internet, the dial-up isn't working right. So, but that kept us safe until Starlink became cheap enough to put on all the boats, and now, like, we've got problems at sea. We just, hopefully they all you owners out there, take care of that, please. It needs to be taken care of.
Now, do got to get ready to hop on a meeting.
It's about that time.
We're talking about this was we keep talking about risk, right? So, in your great wisdom, Roger, because the organization you're with, obviously, what are your thoughts for those that are going into it that are either risk adverse or not risk adverse, considering 2026?
I think everybody has to do it. So cybersecurity is nothing but risk assessment and analysis, and you have to determine your level of risk acceptance. I think most of us here would probably agree that too many organizations are too acceptance of risk, And, like lately, there's been a ton of companies being hit by cyber attack or ransomware attack that has taken them down so long it's caused real, profit loss. One company had to get a $2 billion loan, guaranteed by the UK government. Another company just yesterday I saw they lost 99% of their quarter due to an, and so I think that in general most organizations are not risk averse enough. And maybe critical infrastructure claims they're risk averse, but in reality they allow too much risk, even though they claim we don't want any risk. And you're like, oh, okay, well then we're going to take away internet from all these. Oh, no. So.
We're coming to the end of the time. Do you have, Mr. Grimes, do you have anything that you'd like to spotlight, any charities, any latest books you've got coming out or anything?
I am okay. I'm working on my 16th book. It'll be out in December on Amazon, called How AI and Quantum Impacts Cyber Threats and Defenses.
Okay.
So I'm going to cover kind of the two biggest topics, getting ready to launch, put it in one book, and it covers the threats and how it's going to change the defenses. So thank you so much for allowing me to share that.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. And we're definitely going to share that once it comes out. Blast that link everywhere. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today, man. Appreciate it. It was nice seeing you again.
Hey, anytime I can sit down, Roger.
Yeah.
This time, we weren't mentoring other people though. So, one of the things I would say for the listeners, think about it, right? How many people are going to listen to this and do harm?
Yeah. But anybody who is out here and y'all want to talk about anything that we've talked about, please join the Qubit Quorum. We'll have the QR code up here in a bit. And we keep talking about these topics constantly. We're always talking about critical infrastructure, artificial intelligence, quantum encryption, and you name it, we're talking about it.